Wealthy CEO took his daughter out for dinner until a lonely single mom caught his eye, and he did the unimaginable. This is Faye Mitchell. Some of you know her as our Director of Community Impact. I know her as the woman who brought meaning back into my life and my daughter's life. The ballroom was dead silent. Faye could feel every eye on her borrowed burgundy dress, her secondhand heels, her face still wet with tears from the cruel words she'd overheard just minutes before. She's kind, brilliant, hardworking, and compassionate. She came from nothing and built herself into someone remarkable through sheer determination and heart. Catherine Thornton's face had gone white. The woman who just whispered that Faye was an embarrassment, that Reed's dead wife must be rolling in her grave, now looked like she wanted to disappear into the marble floor. I'm proud to love her, Reed continued, his voice steady and fierce. And I'm proud to have her representing Colton Technologies. She's worth 1,000 of anyone in this room who judges people by their bank accounts instead of their character. Faye's knees were shaking. This wasn't how Cinderella stories were supposed to go. This was real life, messy and public and terrifying. Anyone who has a problem with that, Reed said, scanning the crowd with steel in his gray eyes, can leave right now. Nobody moved. Now, Reed turned to Faye, his expression softening, his thumb stroking her hand. Dance with me. But let me back up. Let me tell you how a struggling single mother and a grieving billionaire ended up at that microphone, in that moment, fighting for a love that shouldn't have been possible. Let me tell you about the night that changed everything. The night Reed Colton walked past the velvet ropes and headed straight for the poorest table in Belmont's restaurant. The night Faye Mitchell learned that sometimes, just sometimes, good things really do happen to good people. If you've ever felt invisible, like the world overlooks people like you, this story is going to hit different. Hit that subscribe button, because what happens next will restore your faith in humanity. It started 3 months earlier on a Tuesday evening in September when Faye Mitchell stood in front of her tiny bathroom mirror and tried to make herself look like she belonged in a place she absolutely could not afford. The dress was emerald green, borrowed from Stacy, her co-worker at Morrison's Diner. It was a size too big, and she'd safety pinned the back to make it fit. The shoes were hers, black flats from Target that she'd bought 2 years ago and worn to every important occasion since. She'd done her own makeup with a drugstore palette, watching YouTube tutorials on her cracked phone screen. Mama, you look like a princess. Faye turned to see Rosie standing in the bathroom doorway. Her daughter wore the pink dress Faye had sewn herself from fabric remnants she'd found at the discount store. It had taken 3 evenings after her late shift to finish it, her fingers aching as she stitched by lamplight while Rosie slept. Thank you, baby girl. So do you. Rosie was 7 years old today. 7 years since Faye had held her newborn daughter in a county hospital, alone because the father had left the day she'd told him she was pregnant. 7 years of struggle, of choosing between electricity and groceries, of taking buses in the rain, because she couldn't afford car repairs, of loving this child with every broken piece of her heart. Are you excited about dinner? Rosie nodded, her blue eyes huge. I've never been to a fancy restaurant before. Faye's chest tightened. Most 7-year-olds asked for toys, for birthday parties with friends, for trips to the zoo. Rosie had asked for one thing, just dinner at a nice restaurant with tablecloths, just one meal where they felt special. So Faye had taken on extra shifts. She'd worked doubles at the diner, then cleaned office buildings until 2 in the morning. She'd skipped lunches and eaten ramen for 2 weeks straight. She'd saved every single dollar until she had enough for dinner at Belmont's, the kind of place she'd only seen in movies. We're going to have the best time, Faye said, kneeling down to fix Rosie's hair ribbon. Just you and me, being fancy ladies. They took 2 buses to get downtown. Faye held Rosie's hand the whole way, both of them pressed against other passengers in the crowded evening commute. Through the window, Faye watched Seattle transform from their neighborhood of check cashing, stores and laundromats to the gleaming downtown core of glass towers and luxury cars. Belmont's occupied the ground floor of one of those towers. Through the windows, Faye could see crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, and people who looked like they'd never worried about money a day in their lives. Her stomach twisted with anxiety. What was she doing? This was stupid. Reckless. That money could have paid for Rosie's winter coat, for new shoes, for the field trip fee the school kept sending home. But then Rosie squeezed her hand and whispered, "It's so beautiful, Mama," and Faye pushed the door open. The hostess looked them over with barely concealed assessment. Reservation, yes, Mitchell, 7:30. The woman checked her tablet, her perfectly shaped eyebrows rising slightly. Right this way. They were led to a small table by the window. far from the very important person section, where a large table sat empty with a reserved sign and an elaborate flower arrangement. Faye could feel eyes on them as they walked. A woman in a designer dress whispered something to her companion. A man in an expensive suit looked away when Faye met his gaze. She lifted her chin higher. They had every right to be here. She'd worked for this. Earned it. Your server will be right with you, the hostess said, placing menus on the table before disappearing. Faye opened the menu and immediately wanted to cry. $42 for salmon, $36 for chicken, $28 for pasta. She'd known it would be expensive, but seeing the numbers in print made her hands shake. Mama, look how fancy the napkins are. Faye looked up to see Rosie touching the white linen napkin that had been folded into an intricate swan shape. Her daughter's face was full of wonder, her fingers gentle on the delicate folds. Every penny of anxiety, every extra shift, every sore muscle dissolved in that moment. This was worth it. This light in her daughter's eyes, this moment of pure happiness. Very fancy, baby. Faye reached across the table to touch Rosie's braided hair. Just like you. The server arrived, introduced himself as Michael, and explained the specials in detail. Faye ordered the cheapest pasta dish and asked if they could split it. Michael didn't even blink, just nodded and said, "Of course. Would you like some bread to start?" "Yes, please," Rosie said politely, and Michael smiled at her. "Coming right up. And happy birthday, young lady." After he left, Rosie leaned forward. "How did he know it was my birthday?" "Restaurants are magic like that," Faye said, though she suspected the hostess had noted it in the reservation system. The bread came, warm and soft with butter that probably cost more than Faye made in an hour. Rosie ate slowly, savoring every bite. Faye watched her and tried to memorize this moment. Her daughter in a homemade dress, delighted by bread, finding joy in such simple things. That's when the restaurant changed. Faye felt it before she saw it. The sudden quiet, the way conversations stopped mid-sentence. She looked up and felt the world tilt. Walking through Belmont's, past the hostess stand, past the velvet ropes that separated the very important person section from the regular dining area, was a man Faye recognized from the business magazines in the waiting room at Rosie's free clinic. Reed Colton. The Reed Colton. Founder and CEO of Colton Technologies, one of the youngest billionaires in the Pacific Northwest. 38 years old and worth more money than Faye could comprehend. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with dark hair touched with gray at the temples. He wore a charcoal suit that fit him perfectly, the kind of tailoring that costs thousands of dollars. But it was his face that caught her. Strong features, sharp jawline, and eyes that looked tired despite his success. Beside him walked a little girl, maybe 8 years old, with long chestnut hair and a lavender dress that probably cost more than Faye's monthly rent. The child held his hand tightly, her expression solemn. The hostess was gesturing frantically toward the very important person section, clearly confused about why Mr. Colton was walking in the wrong direction. But Reed wasn't looking at the reserved table with its champagne bucket and elaborate flowers. He was looking directly at Faye and Rosie. Faye's hands froze on the knife she'd been using to cut Rosie's bread. Around them, every head had turned. Other diners watched openly. Even the servers had paused mid-step. Reed Colton walked right up to their small table by the window. Faye's heart hammered so hard she could hear it in her ears. What was happening? Had she done something wrong? Were they not supposed to be here? "Excuse me," Reed said, and his voice was surprisingly gentle. "I'm Reed, and this is my daughter, Nora." Up close, Faye could see the little girl more clearly. She had her father's gray eyes, but there was a sadness in them that no child should carry. "We couldn't help but notice you two from across the restaurant," Reed continued. "My daughter was just telling me how much she wished she had someone to talk to tonight. Someone her own age. Would you mind terribly if we joined you?" Faye's mouth went completely dry. A billionaire was asking to sit at her table. At her table, with the cheapest entree and the borrowed dress and the homemade outfit for her daughter. Faye started, her mind racing. This had to be some kind of mistake, or a joke, or maybe she'd misheard him. "Please," the little girl, Nora, said softly. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I don't like sitting at big tables by myself. It's boring." Something in those words cut straight through Faye's shock. This child, with all her wealth and privilege, looked lonely. Actually lonely, in the way Rosie sometimes looked when she talked about not having friends because they moved apartments so often. Faye glanced at Rosie, who was staring at Nora with a mixture of shyness and curiosity. Of course, Faye heard herself say, "Please, sit down." Reed's entire face transformed with his smile. It was genuine, reaching his eyes and erasing years from his features. He pulled out the chair across from Faye while Nora scrambled into the seat next to Rosie. The hostess rushed over, her face flushed and flustered. "Mr. Colton, your table is ready in the very important person section. We have the champagne you requested." "That's all right, Rachel," Reed said kindly. "We'll be sitting here tonight. You can bring the champagne over if you'd like." "But sir," the woman stammered, looking around at the other diners who were still watching. "This table isn't really suitable for your party size." "This table is perfect," Reed said firmly, but not unkindly. "Thank you, Rachel." The hostess retreated, looking like she'd just witnessed something unprecedented, which, Faye supposed, she had. "I'm Natalie," Faye said, then immediately cursed herself silently. "No, I'm Faye. I'm sorry, I'm Faye Mitchell. And this is my daughter, Rosie. It's her birthday today." "Happy birthday, Rosie," Reed said, his attention shifting to her daughter with genuine warmth. "How old are you?" "7, Rosie said, holding up 7 fingers. "7 is an excellent age," Reed said seriously. "Nora, how old are you again?" 8, Nora said, and Faye noticed she'd relaxed slightly. "Do you like to read, Rosie?" Rosie nodded enthusiastically. "I love reading. My mama reads to me every night." "What's your favorite book?" "The one about the girl who finds a secret garden and makes it beautiful again." Nora's eyes lit up. "That's my favorite too. Have you read the one about the girl who can talk to animals?" "No," Rosie said, leaning forward. "Is it good?" The girls fell into easy conversation, their voices growing more animated with each exchange. Faye watched, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. Michael, the server, reappeared with wide eyes. "Mr. Colton," he said. "Sir, I didn't realize you'd be joining this table. Can I get you anything?" "What are the ladies having?" Reed asked, gesturing to Faye and Rosie. "We're sharing the fettuccine Alfredo," Faye said, her voice steadier now. "Then I'll have the same," Reed said. "And Nora, what would you like?" "Can I have the chicken, Daddy?" "Of course." Michael nodded, still looking stunned. "Right away, sir. And I'll bring the champagne." After he left, Reed turned his full attention to Faye. "Thank you for letting us join you. I know this is unusual." "It's very unusual," Faye said honestly. "Can I ask why?" Reed glanced at his daughter, who was now showing Rosie how to fold her napkin into different shapes. Nora's mother passed away 2 years ago. Sometimes dinners out are hard for her. She gets lonely, especially in restaurants like this. When she saw Rosie, she told me she wished she had a friend to talk to. I couldn't ignore that. Faye's throat tightened. "I'm so sorry for your loss." "Thank you," Reed said, and a shadow passed over his face. "It's been difficult. For both of us." Faye understood loss, though her circumstances were different. "I can relate. Rosie's father isn't in the picture. He left when I was pregnant. It's been just the 2 of us since the beginning." Something flickered in Reed's eyes. Understanding, maybe, or recognition of shared struggle. "That must be incredibly difficult," he said. "We manage," Faye said, lifting her chin slightly. She wouldn't apologize for her life. "Sophie is everything to me." Reed nodded slowly. "I can see that. The way you were cutting her bread earlier, making sure every piece was perfect. That's real love. That's everything." Heat rose to Faye's cheeks. She wasn't used to being noticed, especially not by someone like him. Before she could respond, Michael returned with a cart. On it was a small birthday cake with lit candles, and suddenly the entire restaurant staff was gathering around their table. "Happy birthday to you," they sang, and Rosie's face absolutely glowed. Other diners smiled. Some applauded. The whole restaurant was watching this moment, watching a billionaire celebrate a poor child's birthday like it mattered, like she mattered. "Make a wish, baby," Faye whispered. Rosie closed her eyes tight, her face scrunched in concentration, then blew out the candles with one powerful breath. Everyone applauded again. "What did you wish for?" Nora asked. Rosie giggled. "I can't tell, or it won't come true." But her eyes drifted to Reed, then to her mother, and Faye had a sinking feeling she knew exactly what her daughter had wished for. The same thing Faye herself had stopped letting herself wish for years ago. A family, someone to help carry the weight, not to feel so desperately alone. Their food arrived, and the conversation continued to flow with surprising ease. Reed asked about Faye's work, and she found herself telling him about her job waiting tables at Morrison's Diner, about her night shifts cleaning office buildings downtown. She didn't mention the exhaustion that made her bones ache. She didn't mention crying in the bathroom at work because she couldn't afford the $50 lab fee for Rosie's science class. She didn't mention the car that had been repossessed 3 months ago, or the eviction. Notice she'd narrowly avoided last month by borrowing money from Stacy. Reed listened like her words actually mattered. He asked thoughtful questions. He didn't check his phone, even once. "What hours do you work at the diner?" he asked. 6 to 2, Monday through Friday. Then I clean offices from 10 at night until 2 in the morning, Tuesday through Thursday. Reed's expression shifted, something like respect settling into his features. That's over 80 hours a week. Faye shrugged. Rosie needs things. School supplies, clothes, food. We do what we have to do. Still, Reed said quietly, that's remarkable. It's survival, Faye corrected. There's nothing remarkable about it. I disagree. Meanwhile, Rosie and Nora had moved from talking about books to drawing, pictures on the paper placemat with crayons Michael had brought. They were designing what looked like a treehouse, their heads bent together in collaboration. They're good together, Reed observed. Rosie doesn't have many friends, Faye admitted. We move a lot. Rent increases, you know. It's hard for her to form lasting friendships. Nora has the opposite problem, Reed said. She has plenty of children around, but none of them really connect with her. They're interested in her father's money, in what she has, not who she is. That's heartbreaking. It is. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both watching their daughters laugh together. Can I ask you something? Reed said. Of course. Why Belmont's? This isn't exactly a place for... He paused, searching for the right words. For people like me, Faye finished for him. She didn't say it with bitterness, just fact. I didn't mean it that way. But it's true. Faye looked around the restaurant at the designer clothes, the jewelry that cost more than she made in a year. I don't belong here. But Rosie asked for one thing for her birthday. She wanted to eat somewhere fancy, with tablecloths and cloth napkins. Not toys, not a party. Just dinner with her mama, somewhere nice. So I made it happen. Reed's eyes had gone soft. That's beautiful. It's love, Faye said simply. When the check came, Reed took it before Faye could even reach for it. Please, she started. It's Rosie's birthday, Reed said gently but firmly, and you've given Nora the happiest evening she's had in months. This is my gift to your daughter. Faye wanted to refuse. Pride demanded she insist on paying her own way. But then she thought about the $68 this meal had cost, about the groceries she could buy with that money, about Rosie's shoes with the hole in the sole. Thank you, she said softly. That's very kind of you. As they prepared to leave, Reed pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. This is my personal number, he said, handing it to Faye. I know this is unusual, but Nora hasn't smiled this much in a very long time. Would you consider letting the girls have a play date sometime? I think they'd both enjoy it. Faye looked at the card. Reed Colton, CEO, Colton Technologies. On the back, in neat handwriting, was a phone number and the words, call me anytime. I'd like that, Faye said. Wonderful. Reed smiled. And please, let me have my driver take you home. It's late, and I'd feel better knowing you both got home safely. We can take the bus, Faye said automatically. I insist, Reed said. Please. This time Faye didn't argue. She was exhausted. The bus stop was 8 blocks away, and she'd been on her feet for 13 hours before coming here. The black town car that Reed's driver brought around was nicer than anything Faye had ever been inside. The leather seats were buttery soft. The ride was smooth and quiet. Rosie fell asleep against Faye's shoulder within minutes. Thank you so much, Faye told the driver as he opened the door for them outside their apartment building. My pleasure, ma'am. Mr. Colton asked me to make sure you got inside safely. The driver waited until Faye had unlocked the building door before driving away. Their apartment was on the 3rd floor. Faye carried Rosie up the stairs, her arms aching but her heart strangely light. She tucked Rosie into bed, kissing her forehead. Best birthday ever, Mama, Rosie mumbled sleepily. I'm glad, baby. After Rosie was asleep, Faye sat on her own bed and stared at the business card. The studio apartment felt even smaller than usual. The bed she and Rosie shared, the small kitchenette, the bathroom with the perpetually dripping faucet. This was their life, but tonight had been different. Tonight had been magic. Faye set the card on the small table next to the bed and tried to sleep. But her mind kept replaying the evening, the way Reed had listened when she talked, the way he'd looked at his daughter with such love, the way he'd insisted on helping without making Faye feel small. It was just a nice moment, she told herself. Nothing more. Men like Reed Colton didn't actually become part of lives like hers. That didn't happen in real life, but as she drifted off to sleep, she couldn't help the tiny seed of hope that had planted itself in her chest. 2 days passed. Faye worked her regular shift at Morrison's Diner, came home to help Rosie with homework at the small folding table that served as their dining room and desk. She tried not to think about that dinner, about Reed, about the business card sitting on her nightstand. On Thursday afternoon, while Faye was hanging laundry on the fire escape, outside their window, she heard a commotion in the parking lot below. She looked down and froze. A tow truck was backing into the lot. But that wasn't what made her heart stop. Next to it was a car. Not her old repossessed sedan, but a newer model Honda. Nothing flashy, but clean and reliable looking, with a bow on the hood. Faye rushed downstairs, her heart pounding. "Excuse me," she called. "What's going on?" A man in a suit stepped forward. "Are you Faye Mitchell?" "Yes, but I didn't order anything. I'm from Colton Technologies, ma'am. Mr. Colton asked me to deliver this vehicle to you." He held out a key fob and an envelope. "The car is registered in your name, fully insured for 1 year, with a prepaid maintenance plan. All the paperwork is in the glove compartment." Faye's hands shook as she opened the envelope. Inside was a note on heavy cardstock in Reed's handwriting. "Every parent deserves reliable transportation. No strings attached. This isn't charity, it's one parent helping another. Please accept it. You need to be able to get Rosie to school, to the doctor, to work safely. You deserve that peace of mind." Tears streamed down Faye's face. She stood in the parking lot of her run-down apartment building, staring at this car, this gift, and couldn't stop sobbing. It wasn't just a car. It was freedom. It was being able to take Rosie to the doctor without 3 bus transfers. It was getting to work on time when the buses ran late. It was dignity. It was someone seeing her struggle and choosing to help. "Ma'am," the delivery man said gently. "Are you all right?" Faye nodded, unable to speak. She took the keys with shaking hands. That night, after Rosie was asleep, Faye sat on the fire escape and called the number on Reed's card. Her hands were still trembling. He answered on the second ring. "Faye, how did you know it was me?" "I was hoping you'd call," he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "Did the car arrive?" "Reed, I can't accept this. It's too much. It's a mid-range sedan, not a Porsche," he said gently. "And before you argue, please know I didn't do this to make you uncomfortable. I did it because you need a car, because Rosie needs her mother to have safe, reliable transportation. It's practical. It's incredibly generous. You're a single mother working 80-hour weeks to provide for your daughter. You spend every day serving other people at that diner, cleaning up after people in those offices. Consider this someone finally serving you." Faye's vision blurred with tears. "I don't know how to thank you." "Have dinner with us again," Reed said. "This Saturday. Just the 4 of us at my house. The girls can play and we can talk. No pressure." "Why are you doing this?" Faye asked, her voice breaking. "You don't even know me." Reed was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was raw with emotion. "Because 2 years ago, when my wife died, I was drowning. My company was struggling because I couldn't focus. Nora was falling apart, having nightmares every night, refusing to eat. We were alone and lost, and a woman I'd never met, someone who ran a small nonprofit, reached out. She offered free grief counseling for Nora. She said, 'We help because we can.' That woman saved my daughter. She saved me too. I've been looking for a way to pay that forward ever since." "And you think I need saving?" Faye asked, trying not to sound defensive. "No," Reed said firmly. "I think you're one of the strongest people I've ever encountered. You've been doing everything right with impossible odds stacked against you. I think you deserve support. Not because you're weak, but because everyone deserves support. We're not meant to do life alone, Faye." She closed her eyes, letting his words sink in. "Saturday," she said softly. "What time?" "Noon. I'll text you the address." And Faye, thank you for giving me this chance. After they hung up, Faye sat on the fire escape for a long time, looking at the car in the parking lot below. The old Faye would have refused it. The old Faye would have been too proud to accept help. But maybe, just maybe, accepting help wasn't weakness. Maybe it was wisdom. Maybe it was giving Rosie a better life. Maybe it was letting herself believe that good things could happen to people like her. Saturday arrived with Rosie bouncing off the walls with excitement. She'd picked out her best outfit, a bright red shirt and denim skirt, and made Faye braid her hair 3 different times until it was perfect. "Are we really going to Mr. Reed's house?" Rosie asked for the 10th time. "We really are," Faye said, checking the address Reed had texted her. The drive took 20 minutes, watching Seattle transform from their neighborhood to an upscale suburb. Reed's house was on a quiet street lined with maple trees. It wasn't what Faye expected. Yes, it was large, a beautiful craftsman-style home with a wide front porch and a yard full of trees turning gold and red with autumn. But it wasn't ostentatious. It looked like a home, not a mansion. Nora burst out the front door before Faye had even turned off the car. "Rosie, you're here." The girls hugged like they'd been separated for months instead of days, then ran inside, their laughter echoing. Reed appeared in the doorway, wearing jeans and a simple gray sweater. He looked more relaxed than he had in his suit, more real. "Welcome," he said, his eyes warm. "Come in." Inside, the house was comfortable and lived in. Books everywhere, cozy furniture, photos of Nora at various ages covering the walls. In many of them, a beautiful woman with kind eyes and dark hair smiled beside Reed, his late wife, Vanessa. "The girls have been planning this all week," Reed said as Nora dragged Rosie upstairs to her room. "I hope you don't mind spending a few hours. I thought we could let them play while we talk." "That sounds nice," Faye said. They settled in the kitchen, a bright space with windows overlooking a garden. Reed poured coffee from a French press and set out cookies that were slightly lopsided. "Did you make these?" Faye asked. He looked embarrassed. "I've been teaching myself to bake since I became a single parent. I'm not very good yet." Faye took a bite. They were actually delicious, chocolate chip with a hint of sea salt. "These are wonderful. Really, really." They talked easily, conversation flowing like water. Reed asked about her work at the diner, and Faye found herself opening up in ways she rarely did. "The hardest part isn't the hours," she said. "It's the invisibility. People look right through you when you're serving them coffee, like you're not a real person with a real life. I've had customers snap their fingers at me, complain about things that aren't my fault, leave me dollar tips on $50 checks, and I have to smile and say thank you because I need that job. That sounds dehumanizing." "It is, but it pays the bills. Barely." "What would you do," Reed asked, "if money wasn't an issue?" "If you could do anything." Faye thought about it. "I'd help people like me who are struggling. I'd create programs that actually address real problems. Affordable childcare, job training that leads to real careers, not just more minimum wage jobs. Emergency funds for when the car breaks down or the kid gets sick. I'd make it so people don't have to choose between feeding their children and paying rent." "That's a beautiful vision." "It's a pipe dream," Faye said. "Those programs take money, resources, connections, things I don't have." Reed was looking at her with an intensity that made her heart race. "What if you did have those things?" "What do you mean?" "I've been thinking about something since we had dinner Tuesday night," Reed said. "My company has been growing rapidly. We have over 2,000 employees now, but we don't have anyone focused on employee wellness, on community impact. We don't have someone who understands what it's like to struggle, who can create programs that actually help people." Faye's pulse quickened. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'd like to offer you a position. Director of Community Impact at Colton Technologies. You'd develop and oversee programs to support working families, partner with nonprofits, create initiatives that make a real difference. The salary would be $75,000 a year to start, with full benefits." Faye's coffee cup clattered against the saucer. $75,000. "Is that not enough?" Reed asked. "I can go higher." "Reed." Faye's voice came out as a whisper. "I make $23,000 a year at both my jobs combined." His eyes widened. "Faye, that's criminal. You're worth so much more than that." "I don't have a degree," she said. "I didn't even finish community college. I got pregnant, and there was no money, no time, no way to make it work. I don't care about credentials. Reed said firmly. I care about capacity. I care about heart. I care about someone who understands the problems we're trying to solve because they've lived them. That's you, Faye. Why are you really doing this? She asked. Please be honest with me. Reed reached across the table and took her hand. Because the first see you. I see how hard you work. I see how much you love your daughter. I see your intelligence, your compassion, your strength. I see someone who deserves an opportunity. And yes, I'm drawn to you. I can't stop thinking about you. But this job offer isn't contingent on anything personal. It's separate. You're qualified, and I need someone like you. Faye felt like she couldn't breathe. This was life-changing. This was everything. Rosie could have new clothes, a stable home, opportunities Faye had never dreamed of giving her. But what if she failed? What if she wasn't actually good at this? What if Reed realized he'd made a mistake? I'm terrified, she whispered. Of what? Of not being good enough. Of disappointing you. Of this being too good to be true. Then be terrified and do it anyway, Reed said. Take a chance on yourself, Faye. I'm already taking a chance on you. I believe in you. Now you just have to believe in yourself. From upstairs came the sound of the girls laughing, playing some elaborate game that involved a lot of running. Can I think about it? Faye asked. Of course. Take all the time you need. But even as she said it, Faye knew what her answer would be. She'd spent 7 years playing it safe, staying small, not hoping for more. Where had that gotten her? Still struggling, still exhausted, still barely surviving. Maybe it was time to take a leap. Maybe it was time to say yes. Actually, Faye said, I don't need time. Yes, I'll take the job. Reed's face broke into a brilliant smile. Really? When do I start? Monday. I'll have HR send over all the paperwork today. Faye started crying then, tears streaming down her face. I can't believe this is happening. Believe it, Reed said, squeezing her hand. Your life is about to change, Faye Mitchell. The girls thundered down the stairs, interrupting the moment. Daddy, can Rosie stay for dinner? Nora asked. Please. Of course she can, Reed said, releasing Faye's hand. What should we make? The 4 of them spent the afternoon cooking together. Reed taught them how to make his signature spaghetti carbonara, which, according to Nora, was the only thing he could cook really well. They laughed as Rosie accidentally spilled flour everywhere. Nora showed them her special technique for grating cheese. Reed told stories that made them all giggle. Faye stood at the counter, watching Reed interact with Rosie, seeing how gentle he was, how patient, and felt something shift in her chest. This man wasn't just offering her a job. He was offering her a glimpse of what life could be, what family could look like. After dinner, they played board games in the living room. Reed let the girls win at Monopoly, and Faye noticed him moving his piece backward when he thought no one was looking. You're cheating, she whispered. Strategically losing, he corrected with a grin. When it was time to leave, both girls begged for just 5 more minutes, then 10 more minutes, then 1 more game. Finally, Faye said, We have to go, sweetie. It's a school night. Rosie hugged Nora goodbye like they were saying farewell forever instead of just until next week. In the car on the way home, Rosie was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Mama, I really like Mr. Reed and Nora. I do too, baby. Do you think we can see them again? I think we'll be seeing them a lot more, Faye said. She didn't tell Rosie about the job yet. She wanted to make sure it was real first, that the paperwork would actually come through, that this wasn't some dream she'd wake up from. But that night, lying in bed next to her daughter in their tiny studio apartment, Faye let herself hope. Really hope. For the first time in years, Monday morning arrived too quickly and too slowly at the same time. Faye dropped Rosie at school, then drove to downtown Seattle in her new used Honda. She parked in the garage of Colton Technologies, in a spot marked reserved for Faye Mitchell. She had a reserved parking spot. Her own parking spot. The building was impressive, all glass and steel, 40 stories of innovation reaching toward the sky. Faye's stomach fluttered with nerves as she entered the lobby. She gave her name at the security desk and received a badge with her photo and title, Director of Community Impact. Seeing it in print made it real. The elevator took her to the 35th floor. The doors opened to a reception area with Colton Technologies spelled out in elegant chrome letters. A woman in her 50s with kind eyes and silver hair greeted her. You must be Faye. I'm Patricia, Mr. Colton's executive assistant. Welcome to the team. Thank you, Faye said, trying to keep her voice steady. Let me show you to your office. Office. She had an office. Patricia led her down a hallway lined with windows overlooking Elliott Bay. Mr. Colton wanted you close to his office since you'll be working closely together on these initiatives. Here we are. The office was beautiful. Not huge, but bright with floor-to-ceiling windows. A proper desk with a new computer. A small couch for meetings. Bookshelves waiting to be filled. And on the desk, a vase of fresh flowers and a note. Welcome to the team. Looking forward to changing lives together. It was signed simply, Reed. Mr. Colton is in meetings all morning, Patricia said. But HR will be up shortly to handle your onboarding. I've scheduled introductions with department heads for this afternoon. If you need anything at all, my desk is just down the hall. After Patricia left, Faye stood in her office and let herself feel the full weight of this moment. 1 week ago, she'd been cutting her daughter's pasta at a restaurant she could barely afford. Today, she was the director of community impact at a billion-dollar tech company. Life could change so fast. One conversation, one yes, one person seeing your worth. That's all it took. The morning passed in a blur. HR paperwork, benefits enrollment. Faye had to read the benefits summary 3 times to believe it. Health insurance with no deductible, dental and vision, a retirement plan where the company matched contributions, 3 weeks of paid vacation. She'd never had benefits before. At the diner, she'd been classified as part-time to avoid giving her health insurance. At the cleaning company, she'd been an independent contractor. When Rosie got sick, Faye had taken her to the free clinic and hoped for the best. Now she had health insurance, real health insurance. By lunchtime, Faye's head was spinning. Patricia appeared at her door. Mr. Colton wanted to take you to lunch if you're free, she said. There's a quiet place across the street. Reed was waiting in the lobby. He'd changed from his morning suit into slacks and a button-down with the sleeves rolled up. More casual, but still professional. How's the first day going? He asked as they walked to a small bistro. Overwhelming, Faye admitted. In the best possible way. Over salads, Reed outlined his vision for her role. I want Colton Technologies to be known for how we treat people. Not just our employees, but the community. I've seen too many companies burn people out. Treat them like machines, extract value, and discard them. I want us to be different. What are you thinking specifically? Wellness programs, mental health resources, child care assistance, maybe even affordable housing partnerships eventually. I want programs that actually help people build better lives. Faye's mind was already spinning with ideas. What about a partnership with local nonprofits for job training? And emergency assistance funds for employees facing unexpected costs? Medical bills, car repairs, things that can derail someone's whole life. Reed's eyes lit up. Exactly. See, this is why I knew you were perfect for this role. You understand what real people need. Because I am a real person, Faye said. A month ago, I was choosing between fixing my car and buying Rosie new shoes. I know exactly what your employees are dealing with. And that perspective is invaluable, Reed said. Most people in corporate leadership have never struggled. They create programs based on theory, not reality. You'll create programs that actually work. They talked for over an hour, ideas flowing. By the time they walked back to the office, Faye felt energized in a way she hadn't in years. This work mattered. She could actually make a difference. The afternoon was filled with meetings. Department heads, team leaders, people whose titles Faye had to write down because she couldn't keep them all straight. Everyone was polite, professional, but she could see the questions in their eyes. Who was this woman? Where had she come from? Why had Reed Colton personally hired her? By 5 o'clock, Faye was exhausted but exhilarated. She packed up her things, still marveling at the fact that she had things. To pack up, an office to leave, a real job to return to tomorrow. Reed appeared at her door. How was day 1? Incredible, Faye said honestly. Terrifying, but incredible. You did great. Everyone I talked to was impressed. They were probably just being polite. They weren't, Reed said firmly. You're a natural at this, Faye. Trust me. In the parking garage, Reed walked her to her car. Same time tomorrow, he said. I'll be here. And Faye, he paused. I'm really glad you said yes. Me too, she whispered. Driving home, Faye couldn't stop smiling. She picked up Rosie from the after-school program, which she could now afford without sacrificing groceries. How was your first day at the new job? Rosie asked. It was perfect, baby. Absolutely perfect. That night, after Rosie was asleep, Faye sat on the fire escape and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there was Reed, probably putting Nora to bed, maybe thinking about their conversation today. She pulled out her phone and texted him. "Thank you for seeing me, for believing in me, for changing our lives." His response came quickly. "Thank you for letting me. This is just the beginning, Faye." And Faye believed him. For the first time in her life, she believed that good things were not only possible, but that she deserved them. Over the next 3 weeks, Faye threw herself into her new role with everything she had. She arrived early, stayed late, and spent every moment in between learning, researching, and planning. She met with employees across every department, listening to their struggles. She visited local nonprofits to understand what resources already existed. She studied successful corporate wellness programs from other companies. And slowly, carefully, she began to build something real. Her first major presentation was to Reed's executive team. 10 senior leaders sitting around a massive conference table, all of them with Ivy League degrees and decades of experience. And Faye, who hadn't finished community college, was supposed to convince them to invest millions in her vision. Her hands shook as she stood at the front of the room. She'd practiced this presentation 50 times in her apartment, with Rosie as her audience. But this was different. This was real. "Good morning," she began, her voice steadier than she felt. "I've spent the past 3 weeks talking to our employees, visiting community, organizations, and researching what actually works in corporate social impact. What I found was this. Most programs fail because they're created by people who've never experienced the problems they're trying to solve." She clicked to the next slide, showing statistics on employee burnout, financial stress, and retention issues. 68% of our employees report financial stress that impacts their work performance. 42% have considered leaving for jobs with better benefits, even if it means lower pay. And 31% say they'd be more loyal to a company that showed genuine investment in their well-being. One of the executives, a man named Robert with silver hair and an expensive watch, leaned forward. "Those numbers are concerning, but what's the solution? Raising salaries across the board isn't financially viable." "I'm not suggesting that," Faye said. "I'm proposing we partner with existing community organizations to provide targeted support. Childcare assistance for working parents, emergency funds for unexpected expenses, job training for employees who want to advance but lack credentials, mental health resources that are actually accessible." Another executive, a woman named Jennifer, spoke up. "What's the projected cost?" $2 million in the first year, Faye said. "I know that sounds like a lot, but companies with strong community programs see 23% higher employee retention. Every time we lose an employee, it costs us roughly $60,000 to recruit and train a replacement. If we retain just 34 more employees this year, the program pays for itself." The room was silent. Faye held her breath. Reed, who had been quiet throughout the presentation, finally spoke. "I think it's brilliant. Faye has identified real problems and created practical solutions. This isn't just good ethics, it's good business." Robert still looked skeptical. "With all due respect, Ms. Mitchell is new to corporate strategy. How do we know these programs will actually work?" "Because I live the problems we're trying to solve," Faye said, meeting his gaze directly. 3 weeks ago, I was working 80 hours a week at 2 minimum wage jobs, trying to figure out how to afford my daughter's school supplies. I know exactly what our struggling employees need because I was one of them. That's not a weakness. That's my qualification." Something shifted in the room. Several executives nodded. Even Robert sat back, looking thoughtful. The vote was 7-3 in favor. Faye's programs were approved. After the meeting, Reed found her in her office where she was sitting, with her head in her hands, adrenaline still coursing through her. "You were amazing in there," he said. "I thought I was going to throw up. You didn't show it. You were confident, articulate, and you stood your ground with Robert. That's not easy to do." Faye looked up at him. "Did I really do okay?" "You did more than okay. You just secured $2 million for programs that are going to change lives. You should be proud." And she was. For the first time in her life, Faye felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be, doing exactly what she was meant to do. The programs launched over the next 6 weeks. Faye partnered with a local nonprofit to provide subsidized childcare. She created an emergency assistance fund that employees could access confidentially. She brought in financial counselors to offer free advice. She established partnerships with community colleges for discounted continuing education. The response was overwhelming. Within the first month, Over 200 employees had utilized at least one of the programs. The feedback was incredible. People sent Faye emails thanking her, some of them tearful, saying these programs had literally saved them. One woman wrote about how the emergency fund had helped her fix her car so she didn't lose her job. A single father described how the childcare assistance meant his kids were safe after school instead of home alone. A young man talked about the financial counseling helping him get out of crippling debt. Faye saved every single message. On hard days, she read them to remind herself why this work mattered. But it wasn't just her professional life that was transforming. Her personal life was changing too, in ways that both thrilled and terrified her. It started small. Twice weekly dinners with Reed and Nora became a standing tradition. Tuesdays and Fridays, the four of them would gather. Sometimes at Reed's house, sometimes at restaurants, occasionally at Faye's apartment, though she was self-conscious about how small it was. Reed never seemed to notice or care. He'd sit at her tiny folding table like it was a 5-star restaurant, helping Rosie with homework, while Faye cooked simple meals. The girls became inseparable. Rosie and Nora were like sisters, finishing each other's sentences, creating elaborate imaginary worlds, having sleepovers at Reed's house where they'd build blanket forts and stay up too late, giggling. And Faye and Reed, they were falling for each other, slowly, carefully, like two people who'd been burned before and knew how much it hurt. It began with conversations that stretched long after the girls had gone to bed. They'd sit on Reed's back porch or Faye's fire escape, talking about everything, their childhoods, their dreams, their fears, their failures. Reed told her about building his company from nothing, about the years of 80-hour weeks and failed prototypes and investors who didn't believe in him. He told her about meeting Vanessa in college, about falling in love young and building a life together. He told her about the accident, about the drunk driver who ran a red light, about holding Nora while she cried for her mother. "I was so angry," Reed said one night, his voice raw. "Angry at the world, at fate, at the driver who walked away with minor injuries while my wife died. I was angry at myself for not being there, even though there was nothing I could have done. I buried myself in work because it was easier than feeling." Faye reached for his hand. "Grief doesn't follow a timeline. You did what you needed to survive." "I wasn't surviving," Reed said. "I was just existing, going through motions. Nora needed me, and I was barely there. Physically present, but emotionally absent. I was failing her." "You're not failing her now," Faye said. "Look at how happy she is. You did that. You chose to heal, to be present. That takes courage." Reed squeezed her hand. "You helped with that. Seeing you with Rosie, seeing real love and real presence, it woke me up. It reminded me what matters." Faye shared her own story too. Growing up in foster care, moving between homes, never quite belonging anywhere. Aging out of the system at 18 with nowhere to go and no one to help. Meeting Rosie's father, believing his promises, getting pregnant and watching him disappear. "I felt so stupid," she said. "So naive. Everyone told me he was using me, but I wanted to believe someone could actually love me. When he left, it confirmed what I'd always suspected, that I was unlovable." "That's not true," Reed said fiercely. "He was a coward. His leaving says everything about him and nothing about you." "I know that now," Faye said. "But for a long time, I believed I deserved to be alone. That struggling was just my lot in life. And now I'm learning that maybe I deserve good things too. Maybe we both do." Their eyes met in the dim light, and something electric passed between them. The physical progression was slow, hands brushing when they washed dishes together, Reed's arm around Faye's shoulders when they watched the girls play in the yard, her head on his shoulder during movie nights. Then one Friday evening, after the girls had fallen asleep during a movie, Reed walked Faye to her car. It was late October, the air crisp with autumn cold, and Faye was shivering in her light jacket. "Here," Reed said, shrugging off his coat and draping it around her shoulders. It was warm from his body, and it smelled like him. Faye pulled it tighter. "Thank you," she said. They stood in the driveway, neither quite ready to say goodbye. "Faye," Reed said softly, "I need to tell you something." Her heart started racing. "Okay, I'm falling for you. I think I have been since that first night at Belmont's. I know it's complicated. We work together. Our daughters are best friends. There's a lot at stake. But I can't stop thinking about you. I can't stop wanting to be near you." Faye's breath caught. "I'm falling for you too. It terrifies me." "Why?" Because I don't know how to trust this. Every good thing in my life has been taken away. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. Reed stepped closer, his hands coming up to frame her face. What if it doesn't drop? What if this is real and lasting? What if we get to be happy? Is that allowed? Faye whispered. I think we've both earned it. He leaned down slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. When his lips met hers, it felt like coming home. The kiss was gentle, tentative, full of promise and possibility. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. So what now? Faye asked. Now we take it slow, Reed said. We see where this goes. No pressure, no expectations. Just two people who care about each other, figuring it out together. I can do that, Faye said. Over the next month, their relationship deepened. They were careful around the girls at first, not wanting to confuse them. But eventually, Rosie noticed. Mama, she said one night while Faye was tucking her in. Do you like Mr. Reed? Faye's heart stuttered. What makes you ask that? You smile different when you talk about him. Like you're happy inside. Would it bother you if I did like him? Rosie thought about it seriously. No. He's nice. He makes you laugh. And Nora is my best friend. If you and Mr. Reed liked each other, we could be together more. That would be good. Out of the mouths of babes, Faye thought. Her 7-year-old daughter had just given her blessing for a relationship with a billionaire. I do like him, Faye admitted. Is that okay with you? Rosie nodded. Does he like you too? I think so. Good, Rosie said. You deserve someone who likes you, Mama. You're the best. Faye hugged her daughter tight, overwhelmed with love. Reed had a similar conversation with Nora, who was equally supportive. In fact, she seemed delighted by the idea, so the four of them settled into a new rhythm. Family dinners where Reed and Faye sat a little closer, their hands finding each other under the table. Weekend outings to the park, the aquarium, the children's museum. Movie nights where the girls cuddled together on one couch while Reed and Faye shared the other. It felt like family. Real, genuine family. But not everything was easy. There were challenges, moments that tested what they were building. One came in the form of a company gala. It was Colton Technology's annual fundraiser, a black tie event at the Four Seasons where Seattle's tech elite gathered to network and show off. Reed had attended every year since founding the company, but this year would be different. This year, he wanted Faye by his side. I'd like you to come with me, he said over dinner one Tuesday, as my date. Faye's stomach dropped. Reed, that's your world. Those are your people. I don't belong there. You absolutely belong there. You're a senior leader at my company. You've created programs that are changing lives. You deserve to be recognized for that. People will talk. They'll wonder why you're with someone like me. Let them wonder, Reed said. I don't care what they think. I care about you. But Faye cared. Despite her growing confidence at work, despite her successful programs, she still carried the weight of feeling less than. The foster kid who never quite belonged. The struggling single mother. The woman without a college degree. Still, she agreed to go. Because Reed asked. Because she was trying to be brave. Because maybe it was time to stop hiding. She bought a dress with her first real paycheck, a deep burgundy gown that made her feel elegant. She had her hair done professionally for the first time in her life. She practiced walking in heels. But when the night arrived, all her preparation couldn't shield her from the reality of Reed's world. The Four Seasons ballroom was stunning, all crystal chandeliers and gold accents. Women in designer gowns and jewelry, worth more than Faye used to make in a year. Men in tuxedos discussing mergers and acquisitions. Waiters circulating with champagne and hors d'oeuvres Faye couldn't pronounce. Reed was stunning in his tuxedo, and he stayed close to her all evening, introducing her to people, his hand warm on the small of her back. At first, people were polite, curious about who Reed's date was, but pleasant. But as the evening wore on, Faye began to notice the looks, the way some women's eyes traveled over her dress, assessing and finding it wanting, the way conversations would pause when she approached, then resume with forced brightness. At dinner, seated at Reed's table with several board members and their spouses, Faye felt completely out of place. They talked about vacation homes in the San Juan Islands, about art Dee purchased at recent auctions, about their children's private schools. A woman named Catherine, dripping in diamonds, turned to Faye. So you work at Colton Technologies. What do you do? I'm the director of community impact, Faye said. I develop programs to support our employees and community. How interesting. And where did you study? I didn't go to university, Faye said, trying to keep her voice steady. I went to work after high school. Catherine's eyebrows rose. Oh, how unusual. The word hung in the air like an indictment. The conversation moved on, but Faye felt smaller with each passing minute. These people all belonged to the same world, spoke the same language, and she was an outsider. When Reed excused himself to make a brief speech, Catherine leaned toward the woman next to her. She didn't bother to lower her voice much. Can you imagine? Reed Colton with a woman who didn't even go to college. Vanessa must be rolling in her grave. The words hit Faye like a physical blow. She stood abruptly, mumbling something about the restroom, and fled. She found an empty hallway and leaned against the wall, fighting tears. What had she been thinking? She didn't belong here. She never would. These people would always see her as less than, as someone who'd gotten lucky, who didn't deserve Reed. Maybe Catherine was right. Maybe Vanessa, with her architecture degree and her perfect life, would be appalled by the woman Reed had chosen. Faye, a voice said. She looked up to see Reed striding toward her, concern etched on his face. What happened? I saw you leave. The tears came then, hot and humiliating. I can't do this, Reed. I don't belong in your world. What are you talking about? I heard what Catherine said, about me not going to college, about Vanessa. She's right. I'm an embarrassment to you. Reed's expression shifted from concern to fury. What exactly did she say? Faye repeated the words, and Reed's jaw clenched. That woman is a bitter, cruel person who inherited her money and has never worked a real day in her life. Her opinion means nothing, but she's not wrong, Faye said. Look at me. Look at this world. I'm playing dress-up, pretending I belong somewhere I never will. Reed cupped her face in his hands, making her look at him. Listen to me very carefully. You belong anywhere you choose to be. Your worth isn't determined by where you went to school or how much money you have. It's determined by who you are as a person. And you, Faye Mitchell, are extraordinary. I'm a college dropout who used to clean toilets. You're a woman who raised a beautiful daughter while working 80 hours a week. You're a leader who's transformed an entire company's culture in 2 months. You're someone who turns pain into purpose, who helps others because you remember what it's like to need help. That's real strength. That's real value. People will always judge me. Let them, Reed said fiercely. Their judgment says everything about them and nothing about you. I love you, Faye. I love your story, your strength, your heart. I'm proud to be with you, and I'm about to make sure everyone knows it. What are you doing? Something I should have done the moment we walked in. He took her hand and led her back to the ballroom. The band had started playing and couples were moving onto the dance floor, but Reed didn't take her to dance. He led her straight to the stage where he'd given his speech earlier. Reed, she hissed. What are you doing? He tapped the microphone and the room quieted. Hundreds of eyes turned to them. Faye's heart pounded so hard she thought she might faint. Excuse me, everyone, Reed said, his voice carrying through the ballroom. I'd like to say something. And that's how they'd ended up at the microphone, with Reed declaring his love in front of 500 people, with Catherine's face going white, with Faye's whole body trembling. This is Faye Mitchell, Reed said, his hand gripping hers. Some of you know her as our Director of Community Impact. I know her as the woman who brought meaning back into my life and my daughter's life. She's kind, brilliant, hardworking, and compassionate. She came from nothing and built herself into someone remarkable through sheer determination and heart. The ballroom was utterly silent. I'm proud to love her, Reed continued, and I'm proud to have her representing Colton Technologies. She's worth 1,000 of anyone in this room who judges people by their bank accounts instead of their character. Anyone who has a problem with that can leave right now. He paused, scanning the crowd. Nobody moved. Now, he turned to Faye, his voice softening. Dance with me. Faye was crying openly now, but she nodded. Reed led her onto the dance floor, and the band started playing a slow song. As they swayed together, the room erupted in applause. Some of it was probably forced politeness, but much of it sounded genuine. People were smiling, some wiping their own eyes. You didn't have to do that, Faye whispered against his chest. Yes, I did. You're mine, Faye. And I'm yours. I want the world to know it." Catherine left shortly after, her husband looking embarrassed. Several people came up to Faye throughout the rest of the evening to congratulate her on her programs, to thank her for the work she was doing. Some shared their own stories of struggle, of feeling out of place, of finding their way. By the end of the night, Faye felt lighter than she had in years. Not because Reed had defended her, though that meant everything, but because she'd faced her deepest fear, the fear of not belonging, and survived it. More than survived it. She'd claimed her place. On the drive home, Reed reached for her hand. "I meant every word I said up there." "I know," Faye said. "Thank you for seeing me, for defending me, always," Reed promised. Then he asked the question that would change everything. "Move in with me. You and Rosie. Make my house our home." Faye's breath caught. "Reed, I know it's fast, but we're already practically living together half the week. The girls are inseparable, and I don't want to spend another night without you. I love you, Faye Mitchell. I want to build a life with you." Faye thought about her tiny studio apartment with the dripping faucet and thin walls. She thought about Rosie sharing a bed with her, about the constant moves, the instability. Then she thought about Reed's home, warm and welcoming, with space for the girls to play, with a real kitchen and a backyard and stability. But more than the house, she thought about Reed, about how he made her laugh, how he believed in her, how he loved Rosie like she was his own, about how, for the first time in her life, she felt truly seen and valued. "What about Rosie?" Faye said. "This is a big change for her. We'll talk to her together, but I think she'll be happy about it. And what if it doesn't work out? What if we're moving too fast? Then we figure it out," Reed said. "But Faye, I'm not going anywhere. I'm all in. The question is, are you?" Faye looked at this man who'd changed her life in every possible way. This man who'd given her a job, yes, but more importantly, who'd given her hope, who'd shown her that she deserved good things, who loved her daughter, who saw her worth. "Yes," she said. "Yes, we'll move in." Reed pulled the car over right there in a random parking lot and kissed her like she was oxygen. When they told the girls the next day, Rosie and Nora screamed with joy. "We get to live together?" Rosie asked, her eyes huge. "Like a real family." "Like a real family," Reed confirmed. "Does this mean you'll be like my dad?" Rosie asked him, suddenly shy. Reed knelt down to her level. "I would be honored to be like your dad, if that's what you want. I already love you like you're my own daughter, Rosie. Moving in together just makes it official." Rosie threw her arms around his neck, and Faye had to turn away to hide her tears. "Does this mean you'll be like my new mom?" Nora asked Faye. Faye pulled the little girl into a hug. "I would love that. You're already in my heart, Nora." The four of them stood in a group hug, holding each other tight, and Faye felt complete in a way she never had before. The move happened over the next 2 weeks. Faye and Rosie didn't have much, and Reed made space for all of it. He'd transformed one of the guest rooms into a beautiful space for Rosie, painting it her favorite shade of purple, filling it with books and art supplies, and a desk for homework. "This is my room," Rosie breathed when she saw it. "My own room." "All yours," Reed said. Faye cried, watching her daughter's wonder. Rosie had never had her own room, her own space, and now she had this beautiful sanctuary. Reed had also cleared half his closet for Faye's clothes, made space in the bathroom for her things, and insisted her furniture had a place too. "This is your home now," he kept saying. "Not mine. Ours." Living together was easier than Faye expected. They fell into natural rhythms. Reed made coffee every morning, while Faye packed the girls' lunches. They took turns with school drop-off and pickup. They cooked dinner together, cleaned together, handled bedtime stories together. It felt right, like they'd been a family for years instead of months. One evening, about 3 weeks after they'd moved in, Reed came home from work looking serious. "I need to talk to you about something," he said. Faye's stomach dropped. Here it was, the moment he realized this was a mistake. They sat on the couch, and Reed took her hand. "I've been thinking about the community programs, about the impact you're having, and I want to do something bigger." Faye's anxiety shifted to curiosity. "Bigger how?" "I want to start a foundation," Reed said. "A real one, with significant funding, focused on supporting single parents, providing everything you needed when you were struggling. Child care assistance, job training, emergency funds, educational scholarships, everything." "Reed, that's $20 million to start," he continued. "More as we grow. and I want you to run it. As executive director, you'd still maintain your role at Colton Technologies part-time, but the foundation would be your primary focus. Faye couldn't breathe. $20 million. You've shown me what's possible when we invest in people instead of just profits, Reed said. I want to scale that vision. I want to change lives the way your life was changed, but only if you want to, only if you'll lead it. Tears streamed down Faye's face. This is incredible. I don't even know what to say. Say yes. Say you'll help me create something that matters. What would we call it? I was thinking the Second Chances Foundation, Reed said. Because everyone deserves a second chance. A chance to build a better life. It's perfect, Faye whispered. Yes, I'll do it. They spent the next several months building the foundation from the ground up. Faye hired staff with lived experience, people who'd been single parents, who'd struggled, who understood. She created programs that actually addressed real needs. She partnered with nonprofits and community organizations. She poured her heart into every detail. The Second Chances Foundation launched on a rainy March morning with a press conference that got significant media coverage. By the end of the first month, they'd helped 50 families. By the end of the year, that number would be over 300. Faye's work got noticed. Local news ran a feature on her story, from struggling single mother to foundation director. National outlets picked it up. She started getting invited to speak at conferences, to share her insights on effective community support. But through all the success, all the growth, what Faye treasured most was her family. Reed and the girls, their home, their life together. 1 year after they'd moved in together, on a perfect October evening, Reed told the girls they were going somewhere special for dinner. Where are we going? Rosie asked. You'll see, Reed said mysteriously. When they pulled up to Belmont's, Faye's heart started racing. This was where it had all started, where Reed had first walked over to their table and changed everything. Inside, the hostess led them to the exact same table where Faye and Rosie had sat on that birthday 2 years ago. Reed, Faye said, what's going on? He just smiled. After they ordered, Reed stood up. Faye's heart was pounding now. The girls were grinning like they knew a secret. 2 years ago, Reed began, I walked into this restaurant planning to have a quiet dinner with my daughter. I was going through the motions of life, not really living. Then I saw you cutting pasta for Rosie, and something in my chest cracked open. I saw real love, real devotion, real strength. People at nearby tables were starting to watch. You've transformed my life in every possible way, Reed continued. You've brought joy back to my daughter, purpose back to my work, and love back to my heart. You've shown me that strength isn't about money or success. It's about showing up every day with courage and compassion. He pulled a small box from his pocket and knelt beside the table. Faye's hands flew to her mouth. Faye Mitchell, you're the strongest person I know, the kindest person I know, and the love of my life. Will you marry me? The restaurant had gone silent. Everyone was watching. Faye was crying too hard to speak. She just nodded frantically. Is that a yes? Reed asked, laughing. Yes, Faye finally managed. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Reed slipped a ring on her finger and pulled her into a kiss. The restaurant erupted in applause. Rosie and Nora were jumping up and down. We're going to be real sisters, they shrieked. You're already real sisters, Faye said, pulling them both into a hug. And we're already a real family. Now it's just official. Driving home that night, Faye looked at the ring on her finger and marveled at the journey. 2 years ago, she'd been a struggling single mother counting pennies for her daughter's birthday dinner. Now she was engaged to a man who saw her worth, running a foundation that changed lives, raising 2 daughters in a home filled with love. But the real transformation wasn't the external circumstances. It was internal. Faye had learned that she was worthy of love, worthy of success, worthy of happiness. She'd learned that accepting help wasn't weakness. She'd learned that vulnerability could lead to connection, that taking chances could lead to magic. Most importantly, she'd learned that family wasn't about blood or perfection. It was about showing up, about choosing each other, about loving through the messy and beautiful moments alike. If this story is already hitting you right in the heart, if you're feeling every emotion with Faye and Reed, I need you to do something. Hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to believe in second chances. And drop a comment telling me, what would you have done in Faye's position? Would you have accepted the help or let pride push it away? The wedding was 6 months later, in April. when Seattle finally shook off the gray winter and bloomed into spring. They chose a garden venue on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by tulips and cherry blossoms and new life. The guest list was intimate, just 75 people. Close friends, family, key people from Colton Technologies and the Foundation. No pomp, no pageantry, just love and commitment. The morning of the wedding, Faye stood in the bridal suite with her mother, who'd flown in from Atlanta. Gloria Mitchell hadn't always been in Faye's life. She'd struggled with addiction when Faye was young, which was why Faye had ended up in foster care. But Gloria had gotten clean 12 years ago, and they'd slowly rebuilt their relationship. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. "My baby girl," Gloria said, helping Faye with her veil. "You look so beautiful. Thank you for being here, Mama. I wouldn't miss this for the world." Gloria's eyes were wet. "You deserve all of this, Faye. All the happiness, all the love, all the good things. I'm so proud of the woman you've become." "I learned strength from you," Faye said. "You got clean, you rebuilt your life, you never gave up. That showed me how to keep going." They hugged, both crying, years of pain and healing wrapped up in that embrace. Rosie and Nora burst into the room, stunning in matching lavender dresses. "Mama, it's almost time," Rosie said. "Are you ready?" Faye looked at herself in the mirror. The burgundy dress, the veil, the ring already on her finger. She looked like someone she barely recognized. Someone happy, someone loved, someone who believed in tomorrow. "I'm ready," she said. The ceremony was perfect. Faye walked down the aisle with Gloria on one side and Rosie on the other, both of them guiding her toward Reed. He looked incredible in his navy suit, but it was his expression that made Faye nearly cry. He was looking at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. When she reached the altar, Rosie and Nora took their places as flower girls, holding the rings and beaming with pride. The officiant began the ceremony, talking about love and commitment and choosing each other every day. But Faye barely heard the words. She was too focused on Reed's hands holding hers, on his eyes locked with hers. Then it was time for vows. Reed went first. "Faye, when I met you, I was living but not truly alive. You showed me what real love looks like. Not the fairy tale kind, but the kind that shows up every day. The kind that cuts pasta into perfect pieces and works 2 jobs without complaining. The kind that builds people up instead of tearing them down." His voice was thick with emotion. "You've made me a better man and a better father. You've given Nora a mother who loves her unconditionally. You've shown me that hearts can heal and love again. I promise to spend every day of the rest of my life making you feel as valued and loved as you've made me feel." There wasn't a dry eye in the audience. "I promise to be your partner in all things," Reed continued. "To support your dreams, to stand by you in hard times, and celebrate with you in good times. I promise to love Rosie as my own daughter, to give her every opportunity to be the father she deserves. I promise to build a family with you founded on kindness, respect, and joy. I love you, Faye Mitchell, and I can't wait to spend forever with you." Faye was crying so hard she could barely see. She took a shaky breath and began her vows. "Reed, 2 years ago, I was a struggling single mother who thought happiness was something other people got to have. Then you walked into my life and showed me I was wrong. You saw me when I felt invisible. You valued me when I couldn't see my own worth. You gave me opportunities I'd never dreamed of." She paused, gathering herself. "But more importantly, you gave me love, real, patient, generous love. You've been a father to Rosie in every way that matters, loving her like she's your own. You've given us security, but you've also given us belonging. You've made us part of something bigger than ourselves." Her voice grew stronger. "I promise to love you with everything I am. I promise to be a good mother to Nora and to treasure the gift of her trust. I promise to build our business together and our family together with equal commitment. I promise to never forget where I came from and to always use my experiences to help others." She looked directly into his eyes. "I promise to love you in the quiet moments and the chaotic ones, in the easy times and the challenging ones. You are my best friend, my partner, and my greatest love. Reed Colton, I choose you today and every day for the rest of my life." The officiant smiled through his own tears. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Reed, you may kiss your bride." Reed pulled Faye close and kissed her deeply, and the garden erupted in cheers. "I present to you," the officiant announced, "Mr. and Mrs. Colton." As they walked back down the aisle together, hands linked, Faye felt like she was floating. This was real. She was married. She had a family. She had a life beyond her wildest dreams. The reception was joyful and relaxed. Good food, good music, people dancing and laughing. Reed and Faye had their first dance to a beautiful song about finding love. Again, and everyone watched them sway together, clearly deeply in love. Then came the father-daughter dance, but Reed did something unexpected. He invited both Nora and Rosie onto the dance floor. The three of them danced together, while Faye watched, crying happy tears. This was her family, really and truly. Later in the evening, as the sun was setting and the string lights glowed warmly, Faye stood at the edge of the dance floor watching their guests enjoy themselves. Reed found her there, slipping an arm around her waist. "Happy?" he asked. "Happier than I ever thought possible," Faye said. "This is perfect, Reed. All of it." "It's just the beginning," he promised. "We have a whole lifetime ahead of us." They stood together watching Rosie and Nora dance with Gloria, watching their friends celebrate, and Faye felt a profound sense of gratitude. Life had taken her on an unexpected journey, from struggle to success, from loneliness to love. But the best part wasn't the money, or the big house, or the beautiful wedding. The best part was standing here married to a man who truly saw her and loved her, with 2 daughters who called her mama, and a future full of possibility. "Thank you," Faye whispered to Reed. "For what?" "For seeing me, for choosing me, for loving me." Reed kissed her temple. "Thank you for letting me, for trusting me, for building this life with me." As the night wore on and the celebration continued, Faye Mitchell Colton felt something she'd never truly felt before. Complete peace. She was exactly where she was meant to be, with exactly who she was meant to be with. And that was the greatest gift of all. Years later, Faye would stand at charity events and conferences telling her story. She'd talk about that night at Belmont's, about being terrified and struggling and barely holding it together. She'd talk about the man who'd seen her, really seen her, and chosen to help. And she'd watch other struggling parents cry with hope, believing that maybe their lives could change too. Because they could. Because kindness mattered. Because one person choosing to help another could ripple outward in ways impossible to measure. The Second Chances Foundation grew beyond anything they'd imagined. In 5 years, they helped over 2,000 families. They opened satellite offices in 3 other cities. They created a model that other foundations started replicating. Rosie and Nora grew up together, graduating high school as valedictorian and salutatorian. Rosie went to Stanford to study social work. Nora chose Columbia for public policy. Both were determined to continue the work their parents had started. Reed and Faye grew old together, their love deepening with every passing year. The passion remained, but it was joined by partnership, by friendship, by the kind of love that comes from choosing each other every single day. And it all started with one simple question. "Would you mind terribly if we joined you?" One question. One yes. Everything changed. That's the power of saying yes when fear tells you to say no. That's the power of accepting help when pride tells you to refuse. That's the power of believing you deserve good things even when the world has told you otherwise. That's the power of kindness. The power of seeing people. The power of love. Now I want you to think about something. What's your yes? What scary opportunity are you avoiding? What help are you refusing? What love are you pushing away because you're afraid? Faye Mitchell started as a struggling single mom counting pennies. She became a foundation director changing thousands of lives, not because a rich man saved her, but because she was brave enough to say yes, to believe she deserved more, to accept help, to take chances, to trust love. She saved herself. Reed just opened the door. She walked through it and transformed everything on the other side. You can do the same. Your second chance is waiting. Your transformation is possible. Your happy ending isn't just for other people. It's for you too. But you have to say yes. You have to be brave enough to accept help. You have to believe you're worthy of good things. You have to take the scary leap, because here's the truth nobody tells you. Happily ever after isn't something that happens to you. It's something you build, choice by choice, yes by yes, with courage and vulnerability and love. Faye and Reed built theirs. They built it with intention, with commitment, with showing up for each other every single day, through the hard moments and the beautiful ones, through doubt and certainty, through fear and faith. And you can build yours too. So let me ask you one more time. Would you have said yes that night at Belmont's? Would you have let the billionaire sit at your table? Would you have accepted the car, the job, the love? Or would you have let pride and fear keep you small? I hope you'd say yes. I hope you'd be brave like Faye. I hope you'd believe you deserve good things. Because you do. You absolutely do. If this story moved you, if it made you believe in second chances and the power of kindness, I need you to do something right now. Hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that they're worthy. Subscribe to Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips for more stories that remind you happiness is possible. And drop a comment. Tell me your story. Tell me about the time someone saw you when you felt invisible. Tell me about the yes that changed your life. Tell me about the second chance you're hoping for. Because your story matters. Your journey matters. Your happy ending matters. And maybe, just maybe, this story was the sign you needed. The reminder that good things really do happen to good people. That struggles don't last forever. That saying yes can change everything. Reed Colton walked past the velvet ropes that night and did the unimaginable. He saw a struggling single mother and chose to help. Not because he wanted something in return, but because he could. Because kindness matters. Because we're meant to help each other. And Faye Mitchell did something equally unimaginable. She said yes. She accepted help. She believed she deserved more. She took the leap. Together, they built something beautiful. A family. A foundation. A legacy of love and kindness that will ripple forward for generations. What will you build? What will you say yes to? What unimaginable thing will you do today that changes everything tomorrow? Think about it. Pray about it. Believe it's possible. Because it is. Your second chance is real. Your transformation is waiting. Your happy ending is out there. You just have to be brave enough to reach for it. Remember, you are seen. You are valued. You are worthy. And your story isn't over yet. The best chapters are still to come.